is global ship repair and recover naval morale. Industrial we already saw. So going for good army, good navy, good economy, exploration. Yeah, I think the Abathil's idea sets are pretty smart. Then we've got Helena in Krynvar, going quantity economic, which is just meta, and then adding in imperial as well, so that is vassal stuff for the economic, and then quantity imperial for the morale of armies and military advisor cost. Nothing massively impressive from that. I think what's going to be interesting for them is going to be their fourth choice. Then we've got Chaos, which is strategic economic and imperial. All of these we've seen before. Next up we've got Vern with quantity exploration industrial. Okay, those are a new set. So quantity industrial is yearly army tradition. Quantity exploration is national manpower and land leader maneuver. And just took strategic, I think, as we were watching. And then exploration plus strategic is settler chance and colonial range, plus industrial is settler, plus quantity is national manpower and maneuver. Industrial, I'm trying to see the ones that we haven't seen yet. I think we've seen all of them now. Then strategic is going to be buffing their army. So first of all, we've got lots of big armies and now trying to increase the strength of those armies. Necklif, what's Mine Boy been up to? So Necklif went exploration to actually try and escape the vengeance of Vern. Then quality to improve the strength of their armies and navies, because they are going to be balanced in both areas. And then industrial ideas to try and get themselves some economy, and also the industrial exploration means the colonies grows quicker. I'm just going to click away from everyone and see if that fixes the national idea bug. No, it doesn't look like it. Wait, are they all starting to colonise the railways? Oh, they've been colonising those for a while. Krynvar owns everything here which is green, so they're already pretty significantly in. Spider Wretch is a Krynvar march. They actually go all the way out to here. Ruinbringer is a Magama march. And then Oslamazdir. Oh yeah, that's Tanya. Player. Trying to see if they own any of this other stuff down here. Yep, they own Began's Expedition. And they're just leaving these guys to continue colonizing. Like, all of this is still uncolonized. They're just gone, okay, Began's Expedition, you have colonists. I'll just keep you as a vassal and let you multiply. Where were we up to? Chaos, Vern, Necklif, Marhold. So Marhold's going to be pretty similar in setup to a Denica with the Noble Academia for the cavalry. And then Innovative. Okay, that is a combo I don't think we've seen yet. So Noble Academia plus Diplomatic is Leader Siege and Diplo Relations. Plus Innovative is Military Advisor Cost and Cav Fire. Cav Fire? I guess Cavalry Combat Ability affects both Shock and Fire. So, sure. Diplomatic Ideas. Tech Cost, Institution, Embracement Cost. Diplo Ideas. Noble Academia, Offensive, Mercenary Manpower, and Siege Ability. Mercenary Manpower plus 20% is actually a really good combo. The Smite Act! So, Diplo Offensive. That's a good one to remember. Does Arboran have that? No. Neither does the Small Country. Diplo Offensive would be a good combo for those guys, if they needed another Diplo idea. Although Small Country probably will actually go for actual naval stuff. What else did Marhold have? Innovative, which is Tech Cost Institution with Diplomatic, Leader Siege with Offensive. Diplo we already saw, and then Offensive is Leader Siege with Innovative. Yeah, we've seen all of those already. Small Country, Plutocratic, Trade, Administrative and Offensive. So Plutocratic, much the same as Gnomish Hierarchy, they're just doubling down on the super versatile combination of military and economic. Then they've doubled down in the economic for trade, which is why the Small Country's financial situation is so incredibly strong. They do make an incredible amount of money from all the trade that they are able to manipulate. And then they've got Administrative Ideas, which is the Mercenary Idea Group. For mercenary cost, mercenary maintenance, mercenary discipline, etc., which Oberon doesn't have. Interesting. And then let's see how the policies go. So plutocratic trade, production efficiency, sailor maintenance, plutocratic admin, national tax, national manpower, trade, Pluto, we've seen. Trade admin is trade efficiency plus 15%. That's a really good combination. Trade efficiency is basically increasing the amount of money you pull out of your end node by 15%. So that admin ideas plus the trade for a mercenary nation is huge. And then the offensive ideas giving global trade power plus 15%, that's also really nice. So small country is just going all out on trade. I do wonder if the next idea we see from them is maritime. Because maritime comes with the all-important naval force limit modifier, which would allow the small country light ships to really start to multiply. And I wouldn't be that surprised if we see Gnomish Hierarchy also going maritime in the future, because Gnomish Hierarchy just builds really cheap ships. In fact, with the small country and Gnomish Hierarchy allied, what I would like to see is Gnomish Hierarchy building the dirt cheap light ships that they can do, because believe me, I know that from my own game, where the light ships cost less than a galley, or even less than a transport, and then just selling them to the small country, either at cost or for a very, very small profit. So the small country can then use the Gnomish-built light ships to control their trade. Bjarnrik. This should be interesting. Bjarnrik's gone quality religious, and Bjarnrik, of course, being one of the very few players that is not of Regent Court or Regent Court offshoot, being Skaldiric faith, and I think they are the only nation that are Skaldiric. So having religious ideas to allow them to basically declare war on anyone makes sense. And then strategic for the army, and Imperial because it's... Actually, I'm surprised by Imperial. I kind of expected Bjarnrik for their Diplo to go maritime, naval, or exploration. No, not exploration. Actually, yeah, exploration. How do they get the colonies? Because they do have some. Must have been a mission buff, which gives them a temporary colonist or something like that. Or else they got rid of exploration ideas after taking 2 points in it. Because they probably were close enough to just jump across. Although without jumping points, that would have been difficult. Not sure how they did that. Anyway, quantity plus religious equals morale of armies and recover morale speed. Imperial morale of armies, military advisor cost. So it looks like Bjarnrik's going to have a lot of morale. Although they've not taken defensive ideas. Religious plus Imperial is culture conversion. Strategic plus Imperial is yearly army and navy tradition decay. That's going to be a good one for them, because they do both army and navy. Land attrition, siege ability, and then Imperial is all the ones we've already read. I think that Imperial here is a really weird choice. Maybe for the aggressive expansion impact reduction? Prestige is already really strong. You don't do anything... Oh no, you've got big vassals. Okay, so Imperial because of Westmoors and Everwolf. Fine, I guess. I never really understand why people take diplomatic ideas in multiplayer, because they don't affect you in the same way that they do the AI. Like, getting those extra diplomatic relation slots, is it really going to be that useful? Except to allow you to get more vassals, I guess, to integrate more quickly. So you can vassal feed better. I don't know. It's just alien to me. I don't get it. Next up, we have got Yordland, Rebel Thunder, who has got quantity, industrial, strategic, and naval. So, Yordland actually being one of the few true naval powers except for Eberthil, and I think the reason that Eberthil got naval power is because Yordland already had naval ideas. So, quantity plus naval is ship cost and shipbuilding time. Then industrial, national sailor modifier and naval force limit plus 20. That's a good combo. Industrial naval is nice. And then industrial plus quantity is army tradition, plus strategic is national manpower and artillery. These we've... Oh no, naval plus strategic, global ship repair plus 15%, which is actually surprisingly useful, especially if they get maritime, because that global ship repair will affect the maritime repair, where you just repair whenever you're at sea, just automatically. The only thing you'll need is a lot of sailors, and they have a lot of sailors, so they should be fine. And then strategic ideas, which we've seen. I like that idea set. That's an interesting choice. Wasn't really expecting these guys to go super naval, although I guess they don't have any neighbours down here in the south because there's no land connection. The only neighbour they have is Boiscarvo here in the north. Otherwise, they are a fully isolated peninsula. This is kind of like Norway. Possibly Denmark. Though, no, I'm going to say more Norway. Anbennar cost. Economic, plutocratic, naval, administrative. No industrial. Which does surprise me. I was expecting them to go economic industrial at some point instead of admin. Because both of those double down on development, and the whole point of Anbennar cost is their development, which is ever so slightly expensive at this point. Chat currently talking about whether the War of Independence is ever talked about in Britain, or taught in Britain. No, not really. Unfortunately, British history education focuses on like two things. Despite the width and the breadth of history that Britain was involved in, it focuses on the Tudors and the Industrial Revolution. It focuses on a little bit of World War I, the lead up to World War II, the rise of Nazis and the like. Didn't actually cover World War II. It was just like, here's the lead up to World War II, and here's the aftermath of the Cold War. But wasn't there something that happened in between those two events? Don't worry about that, it's fine. At least that was my education experience. War of the Roses was taught, yeah. Which I didn't mind, you know. Lancaster and everything. Bizarre. Roman history was taught. But no, not much about the 18th century at all. 1700s. 1600s. It kind of went Tudors, Elizabethan, Stuarts, World War One, like that. Which is a bit weird because that little bit in the middle, that was like the rise of the British Empire. And like the British Empire, except I guess for the industrial Victorian part. You just get a centerfold in the textbooks marked, are we the baddies? Mine was the same, but with some World War II history. We literally didn't study it at all. It was outrageous. It was like kind of ridiculous, really. Like, we studied World War I in a fair amount of depth, and then just nothing about the Second World War. And yeah, learning a bit about, for example, the East India Company, I think would have been really good. I doubt that many Brits even know what the East India Company was. Like, that's how little it's taught. I'm trying to think if there was anything else that we were taught. I mean, there was a little bit about the Celts and the Norse. A little bit. But that was more about Vikings bad, they'd like raiding stuff, grrr, rather than Vikings traders and explorers too. And in fact, the majority of Norsemen were merchants and explorers, not raiders. And settlers, which were like the wave that came after the raiders. Although we did learn a bit about the Angles, the Saxons, and the Jutes. Like, the whole reason that I know who the heck the Jutes are is because they were the third, less well-known cultural group that migrated to Britain, along with the Angles and the Saxons, later known as the Anglo-Saxons. Did you learn about Viking history at school, or did you have to study more after school? Most of my Norse knowledge was after. Poor Frisians never got a mention. The Frisians didn't really move to Britain, though. They weren't one of the migratory waves, as far as I know. There was a lot of trade between between England and Friesland. Frisian is, as a language, closer to English than it is to Dutch. So British or English traders. At this point, it was English. English traders were able to communicate relatively easily with the Frisians, which is why British cows are the black and white Frisian variety, because they all came from the Netherlands. I think my nephews who just finished school don't really know that Britain had any colonies apart from India and the Caribbean islands. Crazy. Like, a little bit was studied on... Well, was it really? I think the extent of our focus on Australia was we sent the outlaws there. Canada barely got a mention. It's just like it was part of America, kind of, but they're not really. And India, taught from the perspective of it was the jewel of the empire, but nothing about the British in India. South Africa, not a mention. Boer War, not a mention. Napoleon, barely anything. In fact, my class made my history teacher go absolutely bananas, because he was like, okay, so in the... prior to the First World War, and after... what would that be? After the 30 Years' War, but prior to the First World War, what was the big conflict that Britain was involved in? Like, global conflict. Nobody knew. And he basically just shouted at us, Napoleon! Does nobody know who this French man Napoleon was? And everyone's like, oh yeah, that did happen, didn't it? Like, seriously, about 10 minutes just naming random wars. Not a single person said Napoleon. No, Boer War came up. I was like, no, that's afterwards. 7 Years' War. Okay, I'm impressed you know that, but no. That was before. Yeah, loads of other stuff. Bet you had to know all the kings that deposed other kings and vice versa. Nope. The only king that we... Well, again, the only monarchs that we really learned about were Henry VII, in the context of the War of the Roses and his rise. Henry VIII, in that he had a bunch of wives. Elizabeth I is probably one of the greatest monarchs that Britain's ever had. Charles I, in that he got his head lopped off. Charles II, that he actually made a comeback. And then Victoria. And nothing in between those. At all. Nothing before, nothing in between. Nothing after. Right, where were we up to? We were looking into stuff here. Gerberd. Okay, so Gerberd's gone innovative, just like Gnomish Hierarchy. They've gone defensive ideas, which makes sense considering the number of forts they've been building. Diplomatic, I guess, again, because they're landlocked. Although I think for them I would have gone trade. You're in the trade node, which is pretty wealthy, which leads into the Dame's Head. So it's like being in... Vienna, or being in Krakow or the Baltic. I mean, it's not coastal, so you can't use light ships. But actually, trade ideas would be even more useful because you can control more of the trade flowing into you, and you get the caravan power, which just buffs how much trade you get here. I think I would have taken trade instead of diplomatic for Jabert. So they've gone innovative diplomatic, which is tech cost and institution embracement. They've gone innovative strategic, which is idea cost. Defensive, which is advisor cost and infantry combat ability. I mean, those make sense. I guess innovative diplo for the tech cost reduction, though I'm not sure they necessarily need it. Jabert tends to be like right on the cutting edge of technology anyway, because gnomes. Diplomatic ideas, fire, damage received, shock damage received, which are useful because gnomes do take a big hit. Infantry combat ability and advisor cost we saw already. Fire, tech cost, institution, manpower recovery 15%, which for gnomes would be good. Manpower does tend to be one of their big problems. But again, I think I would have taken trade. Innovative, idea cost. No, innovative strategic we hadn't seen yet. That's idea cost. Innovative diplomatic for the manpower. Okay. Then we've got Oslam Asdir, the Ram Dwarves. They've gone for innovative, imperial, noble academia, and offensive. Okay, so it's just the icons which are screwed up. You still hover over and you still get details of each of the squares. So innovative plus offensive is leader siege, innovative plus noble academia is military, advisor cost reduction and cavalry fire, and then imperial is construction and dev cost. Imperial and noble academia we've seen is cav cost. Offensive is cav combat ability, which they've just taken. So yeah, imperial offensive is a good combo for them. And then noble academia, cav cost and ability, cav fire. So really doubling down on the whole cavalry thing. Although the cavalry right now have only got a plus 10% because dwarves have a natural malice of 20%. So the originator of Ram Cavalry just removes that penalty. That's all it does. It makes them completely on par to everyone else. So they only actually have a 10% buff. Like, I don't know if the cavalry pips are better. Ram Rangers 3222. Let's see how that compares to, say, a Danica, which are just human military. 4231. 6. 10 pips. Versus 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 pips. So no, those are worse. Improved RAM. In fact, let's compare the last one. So that's 4, 10, 14, 17, 21 with the mecha rams. Versus, where's Adenica? There it is. The final level, which is the mounted ironmongers, which is 12, 16, 21. So yeah, the top level dwarven cavalry are 3 pips better than top level human cavalry, but they have a 73% combat ability to their 10. Although that's without many of their policies done, because they're still part-way through. Oops, wrong nation. Part-way through on a bunch of their ideas. They haven't only actually finished innovative. So through the policies, they are still going to be able to get 15% from that, and then another 25 cavalry fire from that. So 25 total. Plus the fire. Now do the top end dwarven cav have fire? 2-2. Which compared to human is 1. So yeah, dwarven fire is better on cavalry. So that does make more sense. Okay, that's interesting. And that's just a flat 25% bonus, which is pretty big. Alright, Rubenair. What's Torshin been up to? So Rubenair's got innovative, strategic, imperial, and quality. No quantity. No economic. I like that choice. So strategic is idea cost with innovative. Quality is the fire damage received minus 7.5. That's a nice boost. Do the gnomes have that? You know what the gnomes could do with getting quality? Yeah, I'd like to see Faceless get quality. I mean, innovative strategic I think is a good combo as well. Especially because of the infantry combat ability plus 15%. But for their third military idea, I'd like to see them getting quality. Because that's another 10% infantry combat, plus the damage reduction. And any damage reduction the gnome can take is good. Like, part of the reason my gnomes in the single-player game were so strong, huzzah, against the massive coalitions is because I took a whole bunch of stacking damage reductions. So I was just able to stand in those battles even though I had less morale. PB Yigit, thank you very much for the follow. And then Jazith coming in with a 14-month resubscription. Thank you very much for the ongoing support there, Jazith. Very much appreciate that. Lorent is dead. Lorent is not dead. They will be very, very soon, but they're not yet. Duran actually died first, interestingly. And Reveria is still independent. Right, Reveria was released after their war with Bjarnrik. I'm guessing that as soon as that truce is up, the gnomes will come knocking again. Meanwhile, Vern is going after Wesdam, claiming a bit more land here. After the fall of Neckliffe. Alright, strategic ideas. Plus innovative is idea cost. Plus imperial is strategic, is army tradition decay. Quality plus imperial is shock damage. Light cavalry doctrine. What did Adenica get? Does Adenica have that? Or did they go diplomatic? I need to double check that, because that shock damage is a really good one for anyone that does shock damage. They do have imperial. They just don't have quality yet. But I wouldn't be that surprised if their next idea is going to be quality. Wait, their capstone is settler increase? Oh no, it's not. It's leader without upkeep. I was going to say. And permanent CB against neighbouring heathens and heretics. Oh, and because they're Regent Court, that's going to be basically everyone. Okay, that's kind of interesting. Adenica can then afford to be very, very aggressive. And then Soldier Sit. What have they been going for? Plutocratic, economic, trade, and strategic. So, plutocratic trade, production efficiency, sailor maintenance, economic, yearly republican tradition, and reinforce cost. Yeah, Pluto economic is like a must-have pretty much for republics, I would say. And that was their opening salvo. Plus trade is trade efficiency and production efficiency. Plus strategic is morale of armies and decay. Then trade. Trade efficiency, production efficiency, and sailor maintenance from plutocratic. And then morale of navies from strategic. And we've already seen those. They have a 666 ruler. They have 40 republican tradition. They are actually in danger of having a dictatorship if they're not careful. Because at 60 or higher, you start suffering revolt risk penalties. At 40, you start suffering dictatorship penalties. And at 20, you're gone. It's a dictatorship. Republic removed. At which point, plutocratic becomes rather less useful. And the other big democracy is the small country. Did they have Pluto Econ? No, they don't. I mean, it is pretty open what small country does, as long as it's not a military idea. Whether they go for maritime or economic, I think either would be a good choice. Possibly even industrial. Though I think if they want to double down with the trade, it's got to be maritime, really.